never wanted to find it. I wasn't even supposed to be in that part of the Seraitai. But when you're a low-ranking Soul Reaper, you don't get to argue with orders. Squad 12 had us running inventory checks in an abandoned sector of the 1st Division's old barracks, remnants from a time before even the current Captain Commander. Most of the rooms were empty, just dust-covered training halls and storage areas. But then I found the door. It was sealed. Not just locked, sealed. Heavy chains wrapped around it, covered in talismans written in old kanji, radiating a pressure that made my skin crawl. Whatever was inside, the Seraitai didn't just want it hidden. They wanted it erased. I should have left. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. One of the chains was already loose, like someone had tampered with it. A single touch, and the entire binding system shattered. The door creaked open, revealing nothing but darkness. And in that darkness, something breathed. I stepped inside. The room was small, barely more than a storage closet. And in the center, resting on an old stand, was a Zanpakutō. It was unlike any I'd ever seen. The blade was black, not just in color, but in presence, swallowing the dim light like a void. The hilt was wrapped in faded white cloth, stained with something dark. And the moment my eyes landed on it, a whisper crawled into my mind. Finally! I staggered back, my hand instinctively reaching for my own Zanpakutō, but my blade felt distant, weak, as if its connection to me had been severed the moment I entered this room. The black Zanpakutō pulsed, not with Reiatsu, but something deeper, older. I should have reported it, called my superior, but my body moved on its own, my fingers wrapped around the hilt, and the moment I touched it, my world collapsed. A flood of memories that weren't mine, battles fought in forgotten times, screams of soul reapers who once wielded this blade. Blood, so much blood. And then, a voice, low and ancient. You are mine now. I came to my senses in the same room, but everything had changed. The air was thick, suffocating. My own Reiatsu felt warped, like it was being drained into the blade. I tried to let go. My fingers wouldn't move. The whispers grew louder, forming words I should not understand. And then, footsteps. A captain's presence loomed outside the door. Their Reiatsu flared as they approached. But when they entered, their eyes widened in horror. You touched it. I didn't get to answer, because in that moment, the blade activated. And I understood why it had been locked away. The moment the blade activated, reality shifted. The old storage room vanished. I was somewhere else. The sky was black, not like night, but like a void had swallowed the heavens. The ground beneath me cracked with every step, dry and lifeless, stretching endlessly in all directions. And in front of me stood it, a figure draped in tattered black robes, a Zanpakutō identical to mine hanging from its hand. Its face was obscured by a mask. No features, just a smooth, expressionless surface.
You are the first in centuries to grasp my hilt.
The voice wasn't spoken. It was felt, resonating inside my skull. I tried to let go of the Zanpakutō. My fingers wouldn't move. My hand felt fused to the hilt, as if my very soul had been shackled to it. The figure stepped forward.
Prove you are worthy.
I barely had time to react before it struck. A flash of black steel. I raised my own blade just in time, and the impact sent me skidding backward. The force behind its swing was monstrous, unlike anything I had ever felt. My arms trembled from the weight of the clash. This wasn't a test. It was an execution. I had no choice but to fight. I countered with a swing of my own, aiming for its midsection. The figure barely moved, parrying my strike with unnatural ease. Its movements weren't human. They were wrong, like something imitating swordsmanship, but lacking the imperfections of a real fighter. The battle raged, each strike shaking the void around us. But with every clash, I felt something changing. The whispers in my mind grew louder, more coherent.
More. Give me more.
Each time my blade met its opponent's, a fraction of my Reiatsu drained into it. I was getting stronger, but I was also losing myself. Then, in a moment of desperation, I roared, "Bankai!" Nothing happened. No surge of power, no transformation, only laughter. The figure's mask cracked. A single glowing red eye peered through. This blade has no need for a bankai. It takes, it devours. And then, before I could react, the figure vanished. A sharp pain exploded in my chest. I looked down. Its Zanpakutō was buried deep in me. But it wasn't just a wound. Something was being ripped from inside me. My Reiatsu, my very soul. And in that moment, as darkness consumed my vision, I realized this wasn't just a forbidden Zanpakutō. It was a cursed one, and I had just given it everything. Darkness swallowed me whole. I felt weightless, drifting in a vast, empty void. No light, no sound, just an endless abyss. Then, a voice slithered into my mind.
You are not dead.
I gasped as if I had been holding my breath for hours. My senses returned in a violent wave. Pain, exhaustion, the crushing realization that my body was still here. And yet, something was missing. My Reiatsu. It was fading. I tried to move, but I wasn't in control. My limbs responded sluggishly, like a puppet with its strings tangled. I looked down at my own hands, pale, trembling, fingers twitching erratically. Then I saw it. The Zanpakutō, still clutched in my hand. Its blackened blade pulsed like a dying heart, veins of crimson light crawling along its surface. It was feeding on me. The whispers grew louder. "You are mine now." I turned sharply. The masked figure stood before me again, but something was different. The cracks in its mask had deepened, revealing more of the grotesque, shifting mass beneath. Its form flickered, unstable, as if struggling to maintain its shape. And then I understood. It wasn't just a spirit. It was a former wielder of this blade. All at once, memories that weren't mine flooded my mind. Glimpses of warriors, long forgotten, all of them wielding this Zanpakutō. I saw their battles, their victories, and their downfalls. Each of them had fallen the same way. They had drawn the sword. It had made them stronger, but in the end, the blade always took more than it gave. "You are not the first." The figure's voice turned into a rasping chuckle. "And you will not be the last." I gritted my teeth. No, I wasn't going to end up like them. I forced my body to move, every muscle screaming in protest. The Zanpakutō's grip tightened, as if resisting me. It wanted to keep draining me, but I pushed through. And then, in sheer defiance, I did something none of the past wielders had done. I turned the blade on myself. With a roar, I plunged the cursed Zanpakutō into my own chest. For a moment, silence. Then, a deafening howl. The figure before me screamed, its entire form shattering like glass. The void around us trembled, the oppressive darkness fracturing apart. The curse had bound itself to me, so I did the one thing it never expected. I severed the bond myself. A shockwave erupted from the blade, and suddenly I was falling. I gasped awake, back in the real world. The storage room was in ruins, splintered wood, cracked stone, the lingering scent of something wrong in the air. The cursed Zanpakutō lay beside me, its blade dull and lifeless. It was over, or so I thought. As I forced myself to my feet, a cold realization settled in. I could no longer feel my reiyatsu. No, it was still there, but faint. Like a candle flickering in a storm, the sword had taken part of me with it. And worst of all, I knew it wasn't truly gone. Even now, I could hear the whispers, faint, distant, waiting. And I knew one day it would call for me again. By the way, if you want to see more scary stories like this, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and sub button. It helps a lot. Until next time.